Could this one thing ruin Netflix forever? Well, let's find out. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur. Forgive the heater that's on right now, but let's talk about Netflix a little because I love Netflix. I mean, who doesn't love Netflix? I love Netflix so much, I even have the DVD plans. I can stream original content on the site, and for old foreign films, documentaries, animation, even just regular movies that are not on any streaming services, I can rent on the Netflix DVD. So Netflix is definitely a huge part of my life, and it doesn't hurt that they produce, in what was my opinion, the best film of 2018, which was Roma. And even though it lost to Green Book was number 10 on my top 10 list, so yeah, I'm looking forward to buying Green Book on Tuesday, what can I say? But there is something that might actually hurt Netflix quite a bit, and it is a brewing. And let's look at this from Inc. And it says, Netflix has a truly brilliant strategy, but this one small change could totally destroy it. It's no accident. So let's look at this. By the way, there's Reed. I've met him before. And this is an opinion piece, not necessarily a news piece, but it's one I want to talk about. So it says, forget Netflix and chill. This famous director would like to chill Netflix. The story of Netflix is the story of a company that knows how to pivot. But now there's a new chapter and a new challenge, a small proposed rule change that could present a giant challenge to the company's key strategy. You probably know this, but just in case, Netflix got its start 2 decades ago as a mail-based alternative to Blockbuster and local video stores. They'd literally mail you physical DVDs in a little envelope. For my younger readers, they used to have these things called DVDs. That's cute. Then Netflix saw the future. They shifted to digital. They built the largest video distribution network on the planet. Then they realized distribution doesn't mean much if you don't have access to the content people want to watch. This is very much true. And Netflix also learned this the hard way when they were forced to shell out, I forgot how much money, but a lot of money for Friends for like 1 more year when they realized how many Netflix accounts were on the verge of being canceled just because they were losing Friends. So Netflix pivoted again to become a content producer. In 2018, the company spent an estimated $12 billion on new programming. They introduced an average of 2 brand new shows almost every single day last year. But they needed something more. If you want the premium content that viewers really want, you have to make sure that creators view deals with streaming services positively, from an artistic perspective. In other words, Netflix never wants to lose out on a movie because a director thinks of streaming services as something less desirable than a deal with an old school Hollywood producer and distributor. Netflix's plan involves pouring on the prestige, hence the reported $25 million Netflix spent last year to try and get a Best Picture award for its film Roma at the Oscars, which, by the way, they're also pouring $100 million into Martin Scorsese's next film, The Irishman, when his other main distributor, Paramount, balked at the price point, probably because they spent a lot of money on Silence, an excellent movie that did not get any real box office numbers and got, like, I think, what, 1 Oscar nomination for sound editing or something like that. That movie got hosed. Anyway, Netflix came up short, losing out to Green Book, which was produced in part by Steven Spielberg's company, Amblin Partners. And that little fact might be all you need to know to explain the next part of this story. Because Spielberg, who was really a competitor to Netflix in many ways, has been pushing hard to disqualify streaming services from the Oscars. Ostensibly, his gripe is that Netflix gives its Oscar-worthy films a short theatrical run to qualify for awards before pulling them from theaters. By the way, that's my gripe too. Not because of the screwing the system, although I kind of agree, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but because I saw Roma in theaters. I saw Mudbound in theaters. These are excellent movies, and they were way better in theaters than on streaming. Also, I saw Mowgli in 3D. They had it in like a 3D screen for 2 weeks. I went to see it. Now they dumped it on Netflix, and it's not nearly as good. It just isn't. The theater is truly the best place for these movies, and Netflix is hurting that. But let's continue. I'm getting ahead of myself. Quote, I don't believe that films are just given token qualifications, and a couple of theaters for less than a week should qualify, Spielberg said, adding, once you commit to a television format, you're a TV movie. That quote is from a year ago, but reports are that Spielberg plans to speak out about Netflix at the next Academy meeting. Netflix pushed back gently on Twitter Monday, tweeting, we love cinema, and adding that they also love things like access for people who can't always afford or live in towns without theaters, letting everyone everywhere enjoy release at the same time, and giving filmmakers more way to share. Yeah, but you know what? Here's the thing. This part 1 and 2, you can still accomplish those goals and still put a movie in theaters for 90 days. You can do that. You don't have to do this, oh, let's just put it in theaters for 1 week and then everyone can watch it. No, it's not exactly the St. Crispin's Day speech, but so far public sentiment seems to favor Netflix over Spielberg. Anyway, not that public sentiment really means anything when it comes to the Oscars. No, it doesn't. If Netflix weren't able to compete for awards like the Oscars, that could tarnish its image a bit in the eyes of creators. And that could mean missing out on a few truly top productions that can make or break a company's year. That in turn would undermine the whole content strategy, which could mean yet another pivot. Fortunately for Netflix, that's one thing the company has shown it's good at. Now, here's the thing about this whole thing. I don't know if I forgot if I actually made a video about this. I don't think I have. I think I've commented on it in general, but I actually kind of agree with Steven Spielberg. I also kind of agree with Netflix. Spielberg, I believe, is right that Netflix is gaming the system. They are putting their movies in theaters for 1 week, and the Oscars are movies. And the Golden Globes, by the way, specifically separate television and movies for that reason. Maybe we need a new award service where it's primary streaming, but in my opinion, Roma, great as it was, probably did not deserve to be in the Best Picture race under the rules it had. I'm glad it did because it was the best film of the year, but it was only in theaters for like 4 weeks, and one of the frustrating things about that movie is that it is immensely helped to see it on a big screen. Watching it on television really hurts it a little bit. And it was so strange. I'm not sure what to do with Roma now. I don't know what to think about it because it's so much better in theaters, and yet almost no one I know saw it in theaters. Here, I also agree with Netflix that, hey, you know what? A good film is a good film. We make movies that are better than television, and it's true to a degree. When you go on their site, some movies are of really high quality. It feels like a theatrical experience. And then you have other movies where it's like, that feels like made for television. Because the difference between the first time I realized that movies were truly different from television was when my dad brought me to see Titanic. Now, I know some of you don't really like Titanic. That's not what I'm arguing. But when I saw Titanic and I saw the scope and the depth and just the artistry of that movie, that's when I realized this is what separates movies from television. Television does not have this grand scope, although they're getting a lot closer. Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad certainly prove that. But I think there's a compromise in here. And I think the compromise is, you know what? You can open the movie as late as December 31st if you want to qualify for the Oscars. But when the voting starts, the movie has to have been in theaters for at least 5 to 6 weeks. And then after that, they can take it out of theaters if they want. But the movie needs to be first and foremost seen in theaters. And maybe there needs to be another rule saying it also has to at some point be in this many theaters before it qualifies. Now, some people might say, well, that hurts independent films. And no, it doesn't. The independent films that get nominated all eventually get in over 500 screens. We're talking about Junos, No Country for Old Men. And by the way, it should be noted, most independent films are really studio-funded films that are, kind of sold as independent films. The first official independent film to be nominated for Best Picture was Kiss of the Spider-Woman. And it starred William Hurt, who's not exactly a no-name actor. So, I think most independent films that get nominated for Oscars are really studio films anyway. In my opinion, Netflix should be putting their movies in theaters for 90 days. Heck, Amazon does it. Amazon is making their movies for their streaming service, but it's they're looking at well, we want awards, so let's play by the game. And hey, we might even make a little bit of money off those movies because you really don't make any money when you just dump it on the streaming service. That's why do you think they call it that? Oh, they dumped it on Netflix today. It got dumped today. It's because it's it's essentially giving it away for free. And when you give something away for free, and it bothers me that movies like Roma are given away for free. because it's like that almost suggests that there's no value to it, and that bothers me. So I'm personally hoping that with the meeting with Spielberg, there was a compromise made, because I do think that Netflix is cheating the system a little bit. They want to play at the Oscars, which is about the theatrical experience, and yet what do? They take it out of the theaters as soon as humanly possible. That is a little scummy in my opinion. That does seem like television to me. And hey, with Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad, you can have a Roma quality film and still call it a TV movie at this point. But of course, I now have to pass a question on to you. What do you folks think? Do you agree with Spielberg? Do you agree with Netflix? Do you see a little bit of a compromise? Did any of you see Roma in theaters? And if so, did you think it was better in theaters because you saw it in theaters? I'd love to know. So comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, of course, but even as little as $1 a month goes a long way to helping the channel run smoothly, and you get access to my Patreon's exclusive blog. As always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.